All right. We fucking got it right this time.
Are you sure?
I'm sure. Let me double
My
check.
poor YouTube has like 5 30-second videos on it.
Yeah. So if you're watching on the Unwrap channel or you're watching on Facebook or on Rumble, just know that I fucking kept going. I thought I was switching the channel and because I put us on the wrong channel, and then I went back and I'm like, okay, I need to fix this, and then that happened like 3 freaking times. I kept putting the wrong one, but we're live now. Um, yeah, let me just. Could you give the disclaimer
What?
one more time?
Yeah, what's up, y'all? This the check-in. You already know we're not licensed therapists, psychologists, none of that. We just talk about subjects that affect all of us, man, and we come up with solutions and try to come up with tools to help y'all deal with it. He
Yeah, man. Also, too, I don't know. Maybe I had too much coffee today.
Dude, I just deleted the fucking interview with Beats
Shut the hell up,
from
man.
YouTube.
We having a rough one today, man. You guys,
Jesus.
you guys got to forgive us slightly. Edit privacy. Damn, I don't know what's going on here. Anyways, yeah, if you got, I don't know, man. If you just dream of stuff and you don't like reality, man, just change the damn channel. You ain't got to talk to us. You ain't got to listen to us. You ain't got to do none of that. Okay. Um, you ain't got to report us. Like he said, we're not licensed therapists or anything of that nature. We're just dudes who's looking for um, not help, man. God damn, I don't know what's going on with my brain right now, but you know, resources and people to help with whatever's going on, and once we all go through um, mental crises or mental things, because mental health is so much more important in our lives than we think it is, and a lot of things, because we're going to be talking about generational trauma tonight, and a lot of things that happen in our lives uh, actually affect us as adults, and we don't know it or realize it. And it's a tough thing to deal with. It's a tough thing to understand how it affects you. It's just tough all the way around, and it could affect your relationships. It can affect your intimate relationships or your relationship with friends, coworkers. Uh, it can affect. Is that damn mic? Man, yeah.
Sorry, y'all. We're getting it.
Sitting on a metal table.
It's been there the whole time.
Yeah, that's what that. Man, talk about a tough night. But we're here, and that's all that matters, man. What was you saying, bro? You don't know?
You were saying about the generational trauma.
Yeah, about how it affects us and everything, man. It's some real heavy shit. Like my brain is all over the place, man. Shit, I might need to take a breather tonight, man. To be honest with you, man, my brain is all over the place. I can't even gather my thoughts right now. I'm thinking about way too many things right now. Again, that's like probably some mental health issue type shit right there within itself. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Being scatterbrained and having all these things happening all at once, and then thinking about this and then thinking about that, and not being able to focus. You know, shout out to Shiva is in the building.
What
We
up,
love you, girl.
Sheba?
It's a tough night, but we're gonna muscle through it a little bit. I was thinking about just in that very second, I was thinking about just ending the show and just like try to not try, but try, like muscle through it or something. But again, this is the very reason we do the show. You know what I'm saying? D Nickel in the building. D Nick is in the goddamn building. What's happening, fam? Oh, I got to turn him on. Jesus.
I'm on. I got it.
All right.
Can you
Yeah.
hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you loud and clear perfectly.
Oh, blessings, man. Just giving blessings and grace to you all. Hope y'all
Appreciate
had
it.
a
What's
good
up, D?
holiday break, man.
Same,
Definitely.
same to you, bro.
Yes, sir. Just over here, like my brain, for some reason, I'm having like major brain farts and everything going on over here. And I was like getting ready to stop the show. And like, man, this must be a sign like to not do it or something. And then in that same breath, I'm like, nah, I can't do that. I don't know what's going on in my mind right now. There's just a lot of things and thoughts and shit. But anyways, we're talking about generational trauma and, like,
Mm.
and how it affects, people or myself or maybe Jizzo or maybe yourself as well. And the reason
Mm.
I was talking about it, because I was speaking to my sister who may be on the show here in a minute.
God bless.
That we were speaking on our mother, rest in peace, and I said something to her today that she didn't know, and I thought she knew, so I was just speaking about it like nothing, in our conversation about our mother going through electroshock therapy as a 15-year-old because they thought it would change her thinking of the type of men that she would date, and they put her in
Yeah.
a wayward home for girls. And we knew about that, but like before my mom had passed, she had told me about the electroshock therapy, and that's like one step below a lobotomy. You know what I'm saying? And I hadn't really thought about it till a couple of months back, and I'm like, man, that's some wild shit. I couldn't even imagine being like 15 years old, strapped to a table, and they're shocking the shit out your brain and doing shit. And then my sister was like, man, I did not know that. I said, you didn't, mom never told you? And she's like, no, that's crazy. And I was like, yeah. And then we started talking about our mom's line of thinking and how she dealt with things and how a lot of that shit passed on to us. Uh, Unbeknownst to her, my mom didn't really know or have the tools for mental health or anything like that. And so she basically,
Well,
what's up?
I'm not to cut you. I was just gonna say neither. I was gonna say neither did the people that were in charge of mental health. But
Right.
continue.
Yeah, that's another like what the fuck? Like, can you imagine thinking about that like now? Like, oh, you're homosexual. We're gonna shock your brain until this part of your brain is what's making you do that, and then they shock the shit out of you. I mean, I think about how many people they just fried their brains or like did lobotomies to and turned into vegetables and shit. Like that shit is just wild as hell. And as we were talking about it, we were like, thinking about how my mom's thought process may have been and the things that she had to deal with and in the way she processed it and then also handed that shit off to us. Like, she didn't know that she was giving us all of this shit. And then in turn, we did shit which affected our children, which affected us. And then it just was like a fucking cycle. You know what I'm saying? Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Totally.
And then like dealing with those things now and looking at those things, it's like it's mad crazy. Like, and then thinking about people who may be dealing with, generational trauma that they don't even know that's where that shit comes from. Not to mention your own trauma from living your own life and the things happening to you as a person, but the trauma that was given to you, just handed off to you like a fucking football. You know what I mean? And it's just crazy. And I just felt like we needed to talk about it tonight, like because of that conversation that I'd had with my sister. I mean, the shit just kind of blew my mind, and also too that she didn't know that really blew my mind as well. But any thoughts, Jizzo? You got any thoughts?
Yeah, man. I was telling and like transparency. I was talking with my dad about that, and he kind of didn't like. I don't know, like he was like just didn't see like not like he didn't see, but I had to like tell him like no, yeah, man. Like he was like yeah, basically that he whatever happened to him, he just did what he had to do and got out of the situation. Kind of like almost saying like, well, there was no curse or whatever. Like whatever happened to me, like that happened to me, and I just still like got ahead or whatever. But yeah, to tell him like, nah, man, it does affect people. Like there is people that went through all hella shit from when they were kids and still deal with that to this day, and some worse than others. I mean, some of us probably just think about it and be like, man, that's fucked up, and cry once in a while. And then there's probably other people that like deal with it all day, like in their heads. So,
It's also like handing it off. Like you hand that generational shit. If you don't have the tools, you end up giving that shit to your kids. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? That's what we're really talking about. Like how that shit is handed off. Like if you don't deal with it, how it's handed off, inadvertently to your children, and then they fuck around if they don't have the tools or have the resources or whatever. They don't know that the shit's been handed off to them, and then they act out and do things, um, and end up having and getting even probably more trauma and more shit. You know what I mean? And then they'll have kids, and then they'll fucking hand all of that other shit, and then their shit, and then it's just like it's a
yeah.
nonstop fucking cycle.
When we've talked about like violence and stuff, and like that shit's learned too, because like, have you ever like seen a little kid, like maybe like a 5-year-old or a 4-year-old, just like swinging on somebody, like with one of their nephew, like their brothers or their cousins or something, like just they get that shit from, they're seeing it as they're little. And so there ain't no way that you see that and know that at that age, and it's not affecting you at 25 or 30 in your relationship. Probably that's how you're gonna deal with it like that. Well, my dad used to deal with it like this, maybe I'm gonna deal with it like that. Not everybody, but definitely some people, I think that's the cause of it. I've seen interviews of people in jail, and most of them have that same upbringing, like super violent home. Dad was on something, whatever it is, like mom was on something, whatever it is. Like there's, most of those people come from places like that. It's real rare that someone's like, yeah, I had a absolutely perfect life. That's probably a small percentage.
Hmm.
Yeah, I got a client, who's he's a cutter, like he cuts himself and all this stuff, because he deals with a lot of survivor's guilt. But his old lady is a custody, she a user, and so I think they got into a terrible fight about her being a custody, and made him he put hands on her. And then people are like, oh man, that's somebody's mother. But it's a mother, and you don't know what her custody tendencies did and led to, him having to put hands on her.
Right.
And then the guilt from him putting hands on her, like, resulted in him having a bad episode of cutting himself,
Mm.
you know. And that's the thing, like you live, and and then you got to be really careful, that you got to be really careful with this stuff, because, like, to what Jizzo said, was like, nah, your stuff is your stuff, and da 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 da. And he's not wrong, but not but period, new sentence. Jizzo ain't wrong neither. And it's you know what I'm saying? And it's hard when two rights collide.
Right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like, that's a hard. We know how to deal with two wrongs. No, you wrong, and the shit you responded with was wrong. But it's different when it's two rights.
Mm-hmm.
It makes me think about my own, like, trauma, which I always use my own issues as I always thought of them, and I still do, because I can't get rid of them. So I always look at them as a strength. But then I realize they can be used against me. Like, I'm extremely guilty, like,
Mm.
about everything. I got, like, the worst case of survivor's guilt you could imagine. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
And because I'm not supposed to be here, but
Right.
I'm here, and you feel terrible about that, and all of that stuff. But then, so then, like, okay, well, this is, maybe I'm supposed to have this because this adds to my compassion. But then you have loved ones that feel like people are always taking advantage of you.
Right.
You're always putting yourself in stupid situations that aren't even a part of you, and then you don't have no control, and then you got another set of issues where you got to fight your own personal savior's complex. and it's hard to establish boundaries. It's even hard to establish boundaries with my clients, and I be wanting to, I be hating coming back from a road festival. I be hating not answering my phone after 4 o'clock, like, and that, I'm their counselor, and then I'm fighting, like, then the company I work for is like, no, he wants you to be accessible. It's like, man, I gotta live.
Right.
I live a life, but I am a counselor, and and that adds to my own anxieties and survivor's guilt. Well, maybe I'm not worth it. Maybe I'm not supposed to be doing this. Maybe I suck at this. And
Mm-hmm.
I have to recorrect those thinking as best as I can. Ain't nobody perfect, but
Right.
it's a practice. You got to work at it. But yeah, it's a lot. It's a lot, man. It's totally a lot, fellas.
Yeah, I was having when having that conversation with my sisters, today I was thinking about how much it affected me in my relationships, and and not feeling worthy of, like, even my own children or my wife, and not feeling worthy of, like, I don't
Hmm.
deserve this shit. I don't deserve these people's love. I don't deserve any of that. And I'm like, now when I look at it, I'm like, man, what the fuck? How in the fuck does that thought process even come in to play? And that really has to do with a lot of things that happened to me as a child through my mother, and her feeling of what do they call it, not self-worth, you know what I'm saying, uh or lack of self-worth, rubbed off on us, and just how she treated us, belittling a lot, and then that brings up a whole other thing where you overcompensate in other areas, where you're trying to be the
Yeah,
over pleaser and the over this and the over that, and it's a fucking lot, and
yeah,
I want to say to everybody out there, like, it's not the end of the world, though. I mean, it's a lot, and all these things take steps, and even like myself and Jizzo, and even D Nick right now saying, it is a work in progress on a daily basis. On a daily basis, my sister said that today. She was like, we ain't done yet. We still got
yeah.
more to do, more to do. And I said, yeah, we've been working on that black belt for a long time. She was like, shit, I'm still on the yellow belt. She's like,
And I want to ask y'all a question. What's the opposite of ignorance is bliss? Because what Jizzo said about like talking with his old man, like, made me think about this. What is the opposite of
the
ignorance is
opposite of
bliss?
ignorance is bliss. Oh man, that's a good question.
Because
Um,
I have my theories, or that I kind of subscribe to. What would you say, Gizzo?
For me, ignorance is bliss. The opposite, um, would be maybe like and maybe I'm interpreting it wrong, but like the loudest person in the room that just is just blabbering at the mouth, maybe, or speaking about things they don't know about. Like,
I I think I think for me, and y'all tell me if I'm wrong. This ain't come from a book. This is my own isms. I think if I believe ignorance is bliss, so the opposite of that has to be knowledge is hell.
ooh, that's wild that you said that, because yeah, I was reading something today that said something about um, a person's intellect, and how it can really cage you, and really, like, that itself can fuck you up, uh, especially when you have all of these other issues dealing with, because then you start to really feel like you are the smartest person in the room, which has you making a lot, like, you end up being like, you're not as smart as you think you are, type shit, you know what I mean, something to that degree
And
I was reading on.
yeah, and like what Jizzo said that just struck a chord to me was when he was like, his old man kind of dismissed the claims. I don't want to speak for you, but way it came off was like he dismissed it. Nah, there ain't no such thing as generational child trauma. That's your stuff is your stuff, and all of
Right.
this stuff. And like, cause if you know, then you gotta act.
Right.
Otherwise,
yeah.
you're complicit. So if he was to accept, like part of why my kid is fucked up or traumatized is, is because of me, then he's responsible to a degree, not in totality, but to a degree. Whereas it's easier to deal with, oh man, he just made bad decisions along the way, and that's it. You know what I'm saying? Like it's, and that's with anything. That's why I always would say the stuff I say about like hip hop stinks, because when I learned the business, I learned like, oh, like yeah, some of these record companies are finessing like artists, but no, some of these artists were doing dumb stuff and taking advantage of the company, so they had no loyal to the artists themselves.
I think
That's a
what,
hard pill to swallow. And
yeah,
so, and you taking it to like the this whole like generational trauma. A big reason of why don't nobody, I won't say don't nobody, that's wrong. Why a lot of people have trouble addressing it and dealing with it is because then once they know, it's like, whoa, and then you gotta atone for that, otherwise you complicit, and like nobody wanna take the responsibility,
I think the
you
reason
know.
that my dad tells that story too is because like we know somebody that I guess used to be, a friend from afar that they knew, and the lady was living a fast life and was on drugs, and but her daughters ended up growing up to like have all A's and go through college and have their careers and
Hmm.
everything. And so I remember him saying that story like, man, look at such and such's daughters. They did this, and they didn't go into it just because their mom was living that life. But that's a miracle story. I mean, that doesn't happen
Yeah,
every
that's
Everybody
the
handles shit
exception,
different.
not the
Yeah.
rule.
Yeah, it's the exception, not the rule. Yeah. That I mean, my mom was like that too. I think certain generations, because I even at a good point in my life was like, shut the fuck up and deal with it. It was like everything was like, shut up and deal with it. But it was really stuffing that shit and just keeping it pushing, but not realizing that that shit was affecting me every day. You know what I mean? Even though I was stuffing it and doing whatever.
And they're not wrong. Like the kid that is my client that's a cutter. I can't adopt him.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? So, and like I wouldn't, like that would be so hell on my family, like, because he be using too, you know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? And it's like, man, like you know what I'm saying, not his fault, he a minor, but still, like, so he kind of has to shut up and deal. I mean, he got a counselor, so he got a little bit of an outlet too,
Right.
but he still has to shut up and deal. So a lot of that stuff is, you know, what people had to deal with, and a lot of people like use, not intentionally, like it's not, I'm not putting no malice on any of our parents, because like my people was the same way. It's like not putting no malice on them. They were all like, my folks was
it's
like,
this
you just got to
it's
deal
this
with it, you know. I asked my grandfather before he died, like 40 minutes before he died, and it was like, man, how am I supposed to do this life thing without you? And this fool said, same thing we do everything, Nick, somehow. Like, man, that's terrible advice. Like, and we laughed about that. But yeah, like, it's just a thing, man. But that's all they had. They didn't have these tools. And we got a lot of grifters and swindlers out here that try to take advantage of these tools, and all of this type of stuff, where it's like, and use it as an excuse for being like fucked up, and it's tricky, that's why it's totally a process.
Yeah.
That's why it's totally a process. Putting too much on ourselves is crazy. Like, wallowing in it is not good, but ignoring it ain't good neither.
Right.
You know.
That's a big one. Ignoring it because That's something I know that I did, and I know that my sister had done as well. I'm waiting for her to get online too, as well. She said she was going to pop in. I don't know. Can you hear that feedback?
Nah, I'm good.
And so it just must be here in the studio. That's not. It's not that mic, man. It's not that mic.
Yeah, I didn't hear anything.
You don't hear it?
Sorry, y'all. We're having some feedback in the studio. Give us 1 second.
That's a ground issue. Something is grounded. I thought it was this cable. It is this cable.
Do they hear it in the chat, Jizzo? If there's anyone in the chat.
Yeah.
I'm not sure. Let's see. Yeah, we figured it out.
Oh, okay.
Bad cable. Why it's in the mix?
I probably gotta leave soon, bro.
Yeah, that was all Mateo.
Oh,
Shout out
okay.
to Mateo, the most important podcast. He said he's in the Rumble.
Oh, bless.
Shout out to O'Hara One. He says you have to deal with life. I don't know what that means, Mr. O'Hara. You do have to deal with life, but shit, that doesn't mean stuff it or not actually deal with it. You know what I'm saying? She said the link's not working. Let me tell her to send me her email so I can get it to her email. But you do have to deal with it, but there's ways that you need to deal with it. You know what I mean? That you should deal with it. You know?
Mm-hmm.
I'm sorry. My sister's trying to get in, and the link's not letting her.
I didn't know prior to taking on this profession, I didn't know how much people hate a process.
Who we?
Like people don't like what the comments said, like, you know, I'm paraphrasing, but life is, you got to deal with it and all of this stuff. Like everybody, and it's like, man, that's so. I guess maybe the processes are too slow because, like, yeah, you do got to deal with it. Not wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But you gotta process that shit out. Like everything else takes a process. You don't tie your shoes in one swoop. Like we do now. When you know how to tie your shoes, when you teaching like a little one how to tie their shoes, you gotta do step by
By
step
step, right?
and all of that type of stuff. And there's nothing that we gotta do that we don't do step by step.
Facts.
Lizzo is writing his bars. It is one line after the other. You know what I'm saying? It is, this song and mixed to, so nothing we do does goes without practice and without like step. But when it comes to people's health and mental health and all of that stuff, especially something as lofty as generational trauma, like everybody kind of rejects like a process.
Hmm. I know. I rejected the shit out of it.
Man, why you think that is?
I don't, man. I don't really know. I think I didn't want to deal with it. I guess.
Is
LaShawn
it
says, "Yeah, most often we want shortcuts." I just sent the. Here it comes again.
what?
What in the entire fuck? It's not that mic.
This one?
Could be. Let me. I have it turned off.
We're figuring it out. It's one of our mic cords
Uh,
keeps shooting us some feedback and stuff, but we're good.
yeah, I don't hear it. I don't hear the feedback. I think that just comes from y'all. What about you? What about you, Jiz? Why do you think people reject
Fuck,
doing
it's
the
still. Hold
process?
on. Sorry, bro. We can't hear you. It's
Oh,
the
okay.
feedback's still coming out.
Touching something. That's a ground. Oh, I know.
All right, we're back.
Okay. No, I was asking you why do you what do you think people reject doing like a process and attacking the process? Do you think like what the dude said in the comments, like everybody want to take a shortcut? What is it I mean they do, but it's just do you think it's just that it's too slow? I don't know.
I think, you know, in some ways, I think people are scared of taking a process because there's that thing, whatever it's called, about like the fear of like succeeding or the fear of something working. And I think maybe some people stray away from a process because they feel it's going to lead them into, you know, other thing into where they where they're not might not be ready to go, basically.
Mm.
So they
Mm.
just rather stay away from the process, you know, and not
Let me
face
just
it. Like
fix. Let me just go cold turkey and yeah, nah, yeah,
like for
that's
me, I didn't
solid,
want
man.
to. I knew that when I went to like I went to a dear friend of mine that does like, I'll just say healing type work. I won't say exactly what it is. But it does like healing type work. And I
Right,
went there to their place, and you know, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was a healing, and you know, there was things that were said and whatever, and I was scared to go there because I was like, all right, I already know when I get there, like I'm gonna have to like probably confront like certain things or get into like thinking about my life and stuff like that because I already was feeling heavy in my chest, but the weight on my chest got so heavy that I literally couldn't take it, and just happened to be telling this friend, and they do the, you know, this healing work with the chakras and stuff, and I had
right,
like,
right.
you know, I had like a moment like at that place, and like I cried as soon as I got there. She said, you know, well, like tell me about it a little bit, and I just was like, poof, like just came out. But I was scared of that moment. I didn't want to go because of that, because I knew I was gonna have to confront it, talk about it, possibly cry about it, all of that. But I felt so much better and so relieved that literally when I got in the car and I left, I didn't feel that weight on my chest anymore. Like I felt like, I don't know, like it was like a demon or something was like in me. Something was just pressing on me, and yeah, it was gone after that. So but yeah, people don't want to confront that, man. It's because confronting that means you got to confront all that shit, the bad, the good that you did. You know, primarily you don't want to confront the bad that you did. We have LaShawn in the building. What's up, LaShawn? She said we get the vision or dream, but when we think of the work process, we tend to want instant gratification or self
Self
sabotage, and
sabotage.
that's big because I was just telling somebody about that, Lashawn, about um, them self sabotaging things, like, and that we all do that because of the same thing, because of the fear. Like when people self sabotage, like a relationship. I just had this convo with someone yesterday. You know, I've done that myself, but because I felt that I wasn't gonna be able to, you know, I didn't want to succeed in what was going to happen. I didn't feel like I would be good enough for it. And I just self sabotaged it.
Right.
Yeah, call me Captain Self Sabotage, man. I was, yeah, the fear of. She also says the fear of. LaShawn, text me your email address so I can send the link to you.
I got
Yeah,
you.
yeah, I know that shit all too well, and even working through that to this day, about self sabotaging because I catch myself doing shit that I know is gonna fuck some shit up, and I have to stop myself. I'm like, what the fuck are you doing? You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I know that a lot of that uh, comes from this generational trauma that has occurred, and you know is still like living and running its course through my life. You know what I mean? And me understanding the tools that I have now to like try to work through that. You know what I mean? And it's a struggle. It's a struggle like a motherfucker. But the greatest
Oh
part
yeah.
about it is being aware of it. You know what I mean? I'm not aware of everything that's happening throughout, you know,
Right.
this all of the trauma, but the things that I am aware of, it's really crazy to like recognize and be like, oh shit. And then when I really process it all, it's like going back in my brain and like, damn, I did that before. I did that before. Or I may have done the same thing, but in a different way. And it fucked up this or it fucked up that. You know, it's just like like really wild shit. And it just really puts a stamp on how important it is to deal with these these things, or or seek help if you don't know how to deal with them. Shiva says, one thing I learned was to always be teachable, even about your own growth. Looking in the mirror is difficult, but it helps you to survive life.
Yeah, most people don't want to, and it's because that's why there's that word, and I'm sure there's other terms for it, but constructive criticism, like, um, yeah, sometimes people don't want that. We've all been
Yeah,
there. I've
yo,
also not
it
wanted
is
to hear
hard.
shit.
No, I'm co-signing you, Gizla. It was hard when I had to, like, one of the requirements for being a counselor, at least in the company that I'm at, like, we have to do a men's retreat.
Mm,
We have the women have to do a women's retreat too, for their department, but like we have to do a men's retreat. And I hated the idea of doing a men's retreat. I'm like, man, I have because what comes with it, like they take your phone and you're living a bunch around a bunch of strangers that you don't know, they're men, and I'm just and then, I'm thinking initially it was admittedly like arrogance. Like, man, I've already done my training. I'm certified. I'm tier 2 suicide prevention. I'm this and social emotional. I don't need to be gone for a whole ass weekend with no contact to the outside world. And I was just totally rejectful. And then when you go through it, you learn, and you go through that whole process. Like, it's a weekend. So it's not just over. It's not just like sometimes they wake you up in the middle of, I don't want to give it away. You got different retreats are different, but they wake you up top of the morning. You're in bunks like you locked up or in college. You just with these people. And then you learn, like, as it gets down to the really hardcore stuff, you learn, like, man, it's that arrogance was really like fear. There's
right.
a lot of fear of having to deal with that stuff, and it's intense. And you don't realize how vulnerable you are when you don't have phones, and you can't talk to your loved ones at all, unless there's an emergency, you know
Mm,
like, so it's just and if you have an emergency, you just stuck, you know gotta deal, like, it's really, really intense. And I think that's why, like, I just did not trust the process and was too vain to want to do it. And so I was kind of kicking and screaming. You know
mm.
what I'm saying?
Speaking of that, LaShawn says, my theme song is Trust the Process. And when we don't have the tools, it's hard to do just that.
Yeah.
Yeah, big facts. I just sent her there she is. Yeah. No, there she is. Hello there.
Hey, what's up?
Blessings.
What's up, LaShawn?
Hello there.
You got to turn yourself up, or I could see if I got you turned up all the way. Um,
I hope my camera's not on.
yeah, it's
No,
on
you're
like a
you're on
motherfucker.
your
You
camera. I
on?
can see you.
Oh, I don't want you to see me.
Well, it's too late for all that.
That I did not want.
Well, that you are.
That's a
Okay,
nice
well,
triumphant echo. That is a triumphant echo. Lead that gives up, and he lead that.
What? Leave what? She's echoing.
Her echo, her God echo.
Oh, I don't know. I didn't know that there was an echo on her. We don't
Well,
have
at least
echo.
that's how it comes in on here over here.
Oh,
yeah, it's echoing on my end as
oh,
well.
that's because you guys don't have headphones on. But it's not echoing on the show or anything like that.
Okay.
But so what do you think about what's being said here, LaShawn?
I mean, as far as, like I was saying, the process,
Mm-hmm.
we have not been given the tools, you know, to know anything about processes, when it comes to mental health or being well, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, or with anything, in your life. So, like I said, trusting the process, we self sabotage, we, want instant gratification. It's a learning process, you know. as I was saying, yeah, we get the vision, we have the dream, we know what we want to do, but if we, actually knew, or said, oh my God, all the work that has to be in place, a lot of people, they self sabotage.
Or they just give up.
I
It's
don't want to
easy to
get, I don't
not
want to
do it.
get, really into, churchified, but you know, that's just like with Joseph. If he knew, everything that he had to go through to have to bring his people out, who's to say that he would have said, "Oh my God, nah, Lord, you know what? Leave me over here. That's okay. I don't want to have to go through what I'm gonna have to go through in order to get where I need to be."
Mm,
And a lot of us don't want to, put in the work, trusting the process.
That's
right.
a fact. That's a fact.
And it's a motherfucking process for sure. Um, my sister and I were talking about that today. It's a process, and it's a never ending process. You know.
Never ending. As I said, we're under construction, and we will be, under construction for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
I like that. I like that
We're
term,
not going to
under
be fixed.
construction.
We're not going to be fixed tomorrow.
No. No. I'm
We
finding
have to
out new shit every day.
go through to get to.
Say that
And a
again.
lot of us don't want to go through.
Say that one more time.
I said
Go
we have to
to,
go
go through
to
to get
go
to.
through, to
Mm,
grow through, to
mm.
get where we need to be.
Mm,
And that's a process.
yeah. So Sheba says self-assessment can be a monster. Phew. You ain't ever lied about that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And that's
A lot
back
of
with
times we don't want to hold ourselves accountable.
yeah. But even when you get to a space where you're doing the work and doing everything, it's still hard to be held accountable, to hold yourself accountable because you're over here thinking that you're doing all of the right things and you're still making mistakes and it's still very difficult because taking responsibility and accountability is a motherfucker. It's probably
Oh,
one of
absolutely.
my biggest stumbling blocks up in to this point as well, because I do my best to take accountability for everything that I do and I say, but a lot of times a lot of old habits and behaviors be creeping up back up, you know what I mean? It's hard to keep a handle on all this shit when I'm not stuffing all this shit down and everything, all of the different things and all the stuff that's happened. So it's a fight like daily. At least for to me it is. I can't
Oh,
speak for
that's why I
anybody
said
else.
we're going to be under construction for the rest of our lives.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hey y'all, I'm gonna bow out. I gotta take off and do some family stuff. But D-Nick, peace. LaShawn, peace. And I'll holler at you, brother.
Yes, sir.
All right.
You go. Bless, brother. Good to see you.
Yeah,
All
I
right. It
not
was
gonna.
good seeing you.
Sure, you too.
And I got a long distance call that's coming through, so I got to go.
Well, damn. Well, there it
Okay.
is. Well, we just. I guess we.
Then there
They
was
hung
two.
up. Never mind.
Oh, they hung. Oh, okay, cool. We keep going then. Yeah. I don't know. What are your thoughts, D Nick?
Man, as it's something like what you said about accountability. I know, like I got six like things that I have to do with when I say things, I'm talking about six like core values that I have to do in our council. And no matter where we at, we always have to go back to accountability. It's
Mm.
always a thing. It's always a thing, and and so dude is like she said, man. It is never ending, never ending. And then one of the things about being like, I guess you would say a adequate counselor, you gotta do. Like I always tell the clients, and I sometimes hate calling them clients, they're the youth, but I always tell them like everything that I'm putting you through, I have to do.
Mm.
Like I have to go through like the exact same process, but maybe a little longer because you know we gotta. talk about it more in depth. Like I gotta, I'm on a time crunch and stuff like that, and it's just being aware of, of how things are, and it be hard, man. It be really difficult. Like, but it's, like she said, you gotta trust that process.
Yeah, you said something earlier today about
Hmm.
like I don't remember the exact words, but it was like you're not supposed to be here type shit.
Oh
And
yeah, my survivor's guild. I was talking about my
yeah, and
particular thing.
that,
Yeah,
that's
my yeah.
that's some shit that LaShawn and I were talking about today. Like we ain't like for all intents and purposes, we ain't supposed to be here, but we're here. And like for me, in that thought, like there's a purpose. You know what I'm saying? And I guess lessons I needed to learn to be here. I don't
Right.
know. You know what I'm saying? I know it's a
Yeah.
struggle like a motherfucker every day when I think about just not just relationships, but even motivation and just things like I have this constant thing of just like wanting to stop, just like, all right, fuck it. I'm just not doing it anymore. I'm just, like, but there, but I know I don't want to stop or doing something. And I think about that, like, man, where did that come from? Like, where I just want to give up, like, when I know damn well that's not what I really want to do. And so, in turn, because I don't give up, I figure a way out to make it kind of go away or sabotage it. I guess that's what we're really talking about, right? Self sabotaging it to where it doesn't look like to me it's my fault, but it is my fault.
There's, what is it, like 11 cognitive uh this how am I saying, cognitive dissertations. So like that's what I'm on and reading and like have to be aware of when I'm implementing in these sessions. But there's like 11 of those, and it's not abnormal. Like we all use it. We can't get rid of it, but we all have these 11 like cognitive dissertations, that we have to get through and cut through. Like, all or nothing thinking,
Mm-hmm.
overgeneralization, negative mental filters, discounting the positives, hostile attribution bias, jumping to conclusions, uh, magnificent or minimalization, emotional reasoning, labeling, personalizing the blame, and projection. Those are
God
those
damn.
cognitive,
I checked every
common
goddamn one. I
cognitive
checked every
disorders.
one of them goddamn boxes. Holy shit. That's wild.
That's a lot right there.
That is a lot. I'm over here listening to. I'm like,
That's a lot right there,
I didn't
and
checked every
and
box.
man,
God damn.
yeah. And it, trying to, be well, one of the things that we, uh, 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 first thing we have to do is recognize, that there is something that we need to work through. And, you know, I'm still chiseling away. As I said, we're still, we're going to be under construction for the rest of our lives. And just being open to learn. Like you said, there's things that you have to go through with your clients,
Yeah.
that I tell my employees, the same thing. Hey, I'm going to give you the tools. I'm going to show you how to use these tools, but it's up to you whether you want to put in the work.
Mm.
And it's not unnatural. You are totally right. And it's not unnatural heat to kind of reject it. I remember when I was going through, like, and this was a more recent training, and then we're going through like those 11 cognitive distortions, those common cognitive distortions, and we were going through them. I was like, is all this shit supposed to be bad?
Right?
and they're like not necessarily, not totally, kind of, sort of, not really, absolutely. It was one of those type of answers. It was
Right.
like kind of, sort of, absolutely, not really. And I was like, like we all have this, and sometimes, like, cause I'm like, as we're going through this stuff, I'm like, man, I feel like I got a lot of these, and I don't necessarily feel like these are bad things.
Hmm.
And there's something wrong with me. And they're like, and basically they're not bad things until they're bad things.
Right.
You know? And I'm like,
Right.
well, that's helpful. You know what I'm saying? So it goes back to
Yeah, that's
it
helpful.
goes back to
Thanks.
practicing and judgment and compassion and all of that stuff. Cause that's the thing. Like, yeah, common cognitive distortions.
That's wild. They're not bad things until they're bad things. Or that's
Yeah.
fucking crazy because
Right?
if I keep that mentality, then I'm doomed. You know what I'm
No,
saying?
man, it's you.
No, I'm not saying like I have that
Yeah.
mentality. I was saying thinking to myself, if that was my mentality, like, well, they're not bad things until they're bad things. And I'm thinking about like behaviors and shit. And I'm like, man, so my brain would be like, well, just keep doing it until the shit explodes or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's just,
Right.
me personally, I can't have that kind of thought
Right.
process. That's wild.
Same. I mean, because some people, if we're like, if it's all or nothing thinking, if like that, just at the top of the list, all or nothing thinking. So if you have all or nothing thinking, that is kind of like cool until it's bad. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying?
I guess. Yeah, because I do kind of have a all or nothing thinking. But, well, I don't know, man. That's fucking
All or
crazy.
nothing thinking. You view things in absolute
Yeah,
black and white
yeah.
categories instead of on a continuum with gray areas. There
I
are
can't. I
times in life when that's okay, and there's times in life where, nah, man, you need to apply some nuance.
right. Applying nuances is hard
So yeah,
for
so
me.
it's all good until it's not.
Right. It's
But
all
that's what
good.
all these cognitive, you know, distortions, these common cognitive distortions. That is all. That's why they're common, because everybody got them.
Right. What do you think uh, is the most dismissive thing that people when people think about generational trauma?
Um, the most dismissive thing that people think, wow, most dismissive. I think what Jizzle's pop said to him.
Hmm.
It's like, nah, your shit is your shit. You got to deal with. Now, he didn't say it like that. I'm paraphrasing.
Right.
I don't speak ill of him, and I'm not speaking ill of him. That's why I asked the question of like, what is the opposite of ignorance is bliss?
Yeah.
Like
LaShawn, are you there still? I don't know.
I'm sorry, what'd you say?
I was asking LaShawn if she was still there because I'd like to hear her thoughts on what's the opposite of. What are your thoughts on what's the opposite of ignorance is bliss? I don't know what she's doing, but she poked her head up for a second.
I'm listening. I had to turn my phone down so I have it like up to my ear.
Oh, what are your
Okay.
thoughts of the opposite? The opposite of ignorance is bliss. What do you think the opposite of ignorance is bliss is?
Mm.
Yeah, that's what I said. I was like, God damn, that's a good ass question.
All
I
right.
teach I teach my kids, like, I told my kids, like, look, if ignorance is bliss, then knowledge is hell.
Hmm.
You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Right.
Like, there's no way of, if not knowing nothing is being blissful. It's
Hmm.
blissful. Like, if you take it in the hip hop thing, like, we didn't know nothing. We making these beats, we writing these rhymes, we all of this stuff, because we ignorant. We
Right.
stupid hip hoppers. We're ignorant. And then If you're a professional, then you learn, oh, every song has 6 copyrights. Holy shit, I gotta learn about 6 copyrights. I gotta learn what PRUs are. I gotta understand what derivatives and sampling in derivatives are and all of this type of stuff. There's a lot of money that's going around. I can get
Mhm.
sued. I can get cease and desist. And I gotta prepare. I gotta like not we go all through that if you cross the line to professional hip hopper that you wouldn't think about it when you was just a hobbyist, you know what I'm
Right.
saying? That love the so-called culture, until it's time to do business. And that's even with a b-boy. He's like, oh man, I want to do these top rocks and the 6 steps and da 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 and all of this. But then you got to think about training your body and how to protect yourself, how to maintain, got to stay in good shape, got to all of that type of stuff. And once you know all that, you can't unknow it.
Right.
You can pretend not to know it, and so knowledge is hell, and that's with anything, especially with your mental health. And then it is hell because people don't want to have like I'm not able to have frivolous conversations with people no more
Hmm.
on anything on anything. Like if people are talking about, if they talking about like, relationships, I gotta either shut up and let them be ignorant
Hmm.
because I have all of this in my head. You know what I'm saying? I can't deflect their journey, but I can't just jump in and be like new knowledge. Like that's not true. Have you ever thought about this? You gotta da da da. I gotta humble myself, but that doesn't help me. Like the whole if you're the smartest person in the room, you gotta get into another room. Yeah, that's cool, but that doesn't help the community grow. You know what
Right.
I'm saying? Like, so then that's difficult. And then if I have knowledge, there's nobody that has compassion for me. And why would they? Because from their vantage point, it's like, well, he know all that shit. He old smarty art motherfucker. He know all the common cognitive disorders and all of that type of stuff. And, no, I ain't got to have compassion for him. And it gets difficult. That's why I'm like, man, so if ignorance is bliss, and we know what bliss means, it's beautiful and it's free, then knowledge gotta be hell. It's gotta
Hmm.
be hell.
Yeah,
It's gotta
it
be a
is.
hell.
It
Yeah.
is. I was always told that you should always align yourself with people that are more intelligent than you are and that have more money than you, so you can pick their brain and and try to get to where they are.
Hmm.
Get those bits of nuggets. You know, to help you.
Right.
And so when you said something about if you're quiet, how does that help the community?
Hmm.
You gotta pick your battles.
Right. But
you
the
know
reason why I say why you're quiet, because if you want to help the community, that contradicts what not contradict. Yeah, I think that's it contradicts what what we both were taught. You wasn't just taught this. You weren't taught wrong. We were both taught like, you got to be around smarter people and all of that type of stuff. So that so that like how do you help the community if you're always around people that know more than you and you air quotes know a lot,
yeah,
so you got to get, but that doesn't help the people who know a little if you want to be to them unless you finna charge them an arm and a leg, and that's what puts us in the situations that we be in now, which is, all of that type of stuff.
yeah.
What
Hmm.
up, E. Johnson? I just
E.
saw
Johnson, what's
E.
cracking?
Johnson said, "What up? What up?"
Oh man, there's every time after these shows, man, I get some quiet time and I just process everything because I don't know I'm finding out that everything's a goddamn trigger for me, everything, and so every time I speak or I'm listening to somebody talk or I'm doing whatever it might be during the day, that I feel like I'm just being triggered all over the place, and then trying to figure out where is that coming from, or why is that doing this to me, and why does this affect me this way when it's something that's very similar to it doesn't affect me at all? You
Because
know,
knowledge is hell.
yeah, that's correct.
Right?
Yeah,
You know better.
yeah,
Now you know better.
yeah, and that's
Yeah, they
exactly
say
what
you
we were
know better,
talking
you're
about
supposed to
earlier.
do better, huh?
Yeah, that's what my sister and I were talking about earlier. It's like the most beautiful part of it is now I'm aware, but that's the hell part of it too.
Yeah. Yeah, because you ain't blissfully ignorant no more.
No, and I can't blame anybody, and I can't point the finger, and I can't say this, and I can't say that, and I'm looking at the shit, and well, I got to say something, or I can't just sit here and be fucking quiet anymore. I can't go hide out and drink. I can't fucking, yeah, man, yeah, I get it. I get it. It's a lot, and I'm gonna be fucking processing this shit tonight. You know what I'm saying? uh, Shout out to being triggered. You know what I mean? Some crazy shit, but
But like the song says, like I said in one of our songs, man, problems are opportunities, so you gotta embrace it.
yeah, yeah. And
You
again,
know.
that's
Absolutely.
another hard one. And if you're a self saboteur expert like I am, you know what I'm saying, or was, or working out of being,
Hmm.
that's a tough one too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it is, you know. But you like I say when I go through the mandated adult like counseling sessions that I have to do for the business, I'm always like, man, I don't want to be a refrigerator that nobody goes grocery shopping for. Where
Mm,
they just open up and take and take and take until the refrigerator is empty.
right.
So like, you know, put some food in that motherfucker. And so I have to so like and that's difficult when you have survivor's guilt as intense as mine is, you know. And so
Shit.
it's really a practice is like it is not a bad thing that I'm getting that I get help. It's not a bad thing that I do this. It's not a bad thing because it gets draining, you
Yeah.
know, especially when you're on this end of it because you deal with people's stuff all the time, you know, so you got to protect yourself from energy transference.
Mm.
And then you got to punch out and then punch in, do some stupid ass hip hop shit. You know what I'm saying? You know, and it's like, you know what I'm saying? And it feels remedial in
Right.
the grand
Can
scheme
you
of
do me a
things.
favor?
Hmm.
And for the people out there, can you explain what survivor's guilt is for people out there
I
that may
was
not
just
know?
getting ready to ask that. What do you mean by survivor's guilt?
Similar to imposter syndrome, where you don't feel like you deserve being here when you go through stuff like I was a little boy, I took one in the arm. You know what I'm saying? I was taken in by as a little boy. I was taken in by amazing, like couple, my grandparents, you know. So it's like you have similar experience of like being adopted, but you don't have to go through any of the crazy stuff as being adopted. My mother was still my legal guardian, even though I didn't live with her. You know what I'm saying? So you know, where you are around your friends who are in single parent households and dealing with they dealing. I had a friend when I was a little boy that got shot, you know, like bad in the stomach. You know what I'm saying? And you know, he has to grow up and he was through the whole foster care system. You know what I'm saying? He's like, that's my brother, you know, whereas me, I just took a little janky not janky. You know, I just took a little flesh wound. I don't know if you could see it
Yeah.
over here, but it was just like something real light. And then you feel bad about so you don't block your blessings, but you feel terrible about your blessings.
Hmm.
You feel like I don't deserve this. What made me so fucking special? You know what I'm saying? And it's hard, like, you know, cause you can't enjoy, you know, what what you got. You feel, you know, and then you gotta fight for, but you almost kind of like look forward to fighting to maintain what you got, because that's a whole nother thing. But
Right.
then I
Wow.
don't have, yeah, like, and then I got two professions. Like, I get to be a touring, like low tier, music and hip hop artist. But then you feel guilty because you can't help your friends or in your colleagues, and then they feel away because they're like, oh man, why the fuck? Oh man, he think he arrogant and he think he's this, that, and the third. And it's like, but they don't get the contracts that I gotta get. Like, I can't I can't perform in the random spot no more, because if I'm doing this show, I got a 30-day non-compete clause that they slap me with.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? So, and and then it's like, if no one relates because no one is on that level. So then you're treated like you're better than other people. Man, you're not. I don't feel bad. I ain't better than nobody. You know what I'm saying? But it feels like that. So then you got guilt about that. And you got guilt, the wear and tear that it puts on your family. You got guilt
And
because it's like,
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut
no,
you off,
no,
but
no, please.
and he and I were talking about that as well today,
Hmm.
because I went through the same thing where my grandmother
Hmm.
raised me, you
Yeah,
know, and I've never, I well, there wasn't a word for it, for
right,
me. I didn't have the
right, right,
knowledge
right.
until right now that, because heat and
You can
my
speak
younger
freely.
brother,
You can
when
speak. You
I
can
think
speak
about
freely.
it, of what they went through, and here I am all cozy with my grandmother, but they went through hell.
Yeah. So,
And
like, yeah, you
it's
would
like,
be
oh
like,
my God.
if you felt a guilt about that, not, then yeah, it would be that. And it's
Yeah.
very similar to imposter syndrome. And sometimes it blend in and one A and one B, like I only learned about imposter syndrome because there was a guy that you know, was performing in a place and he felt like he didn't deserve to be like at South by Southwest because he was a new jack. And it's like, hey man, they picked you, you deserve to be here, you
Right.
know. And I'm telling him, but I'm also telling myself. And then you feel away. Like I had a client that was like, Miss Dienick, this is your life? And I was like, yeah, it's like, why you work with us? And
Mm-hmm.
you know what I'm saying? I had to because I took some kids to one of the shows. It was free, and I was like, I'm gonna do a field trip for you all, take y'all to this show. And he was just like, why do you work with us? And he was like, man, you crazy. I would never work with a bunch like us. And it's like, and I gotta explain to him, I'm like, no, man, I love doing this. And then, it's not always about being being hot. It's about if you can survive being cold. You know what
mm.
I'm saying? And
Right.
it didn't compete to them. Like, why would you know would a rapper like be working as a counselor? But it's like, man, what am I gonna do in the meantime and in between time, between shows and all of this stuff and the albums and all? It's all weird, and then you feel guilty. You feel guilty. You go back to your home of origin, and you look at people struggling. Like, people in Flint, and this is in America, people in Flint still ain't got good water.
Mm.
They just live with neurotoxin in their water. They just got to bathe in
So
it,
you
drink
say
it.
that,
Yeah.
I'm sorry. So you say that, like you said, you have to be able to survive when you're cold. So with
Mhm.
what you do, being a counselor, isn't that a benefit for you as well? Aren't you still learning and growing with them? You know,
Yeah.
uh,
Eh,
yeah.
But you got to learn how to take that. You don't always know how to, and he could tell you we're in the business. If you're doing anything entertainment wise, that's the building the business of superficiality and egos.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Yeah.
so there's a part where you feel like, man, I was just over in Texas and now I'm back in this place with a bunch of people who don't give a fuck about what you just did.
Right.
And don't care, don't want to hear about it. Not supposed to hear about it. And then,
So let me ask you this.
yeah.
You're dual profession.
Hmm.
What what is it that you get, you know, out of, being a counselor? What made you be a counselor? It's got to be something in there that you you love about it, or
Yeah.
it was
No,
it just
I totally love it. I don't say that like I hate it. I totally love what I do and love helping, and it helps with me. It helps me, you know, like I don't like to say give back, but it helps me, understand, whoa, I'm not like stupid, and I got some information because I'm dyslexic, so I didn't get diagnosed with dyslexia until I was a senior, so I didn't know. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
In high school.
right,
And then so now it's like all these years, like what he was saying, all these years I thought it was stupid because I didn't read that good. And then you realize, oh, you got a reading disability. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so
right,
I have I have a level of helping these youth, but man, that stuff gets you hear their trouble and their issues, and they go through real shit. Like, with you and Heat and even myself go through, like you're dealing with them going through that type of stuff like in real time.
Mm.
You know what I'm saying? And that's like difficult to say the least. And you're just trying to like help them and not really just guide them, just be because they gotta help themselves. So you're trying to guide them on the way to help themselves, and you gotta at the same time fight against your own self and heat notice, really do the right thing. You know what I'm saying? And
Yeah.
all of that type of
right.
stuff. And
I get it.
yeah, it's
It is
tricky.
hard.
Yeah, and
It's
then
hard,
yeah,
um, especially, when you hear their journey, their traumas, you know, and that's why, um, I advised he that he and I should take some type of mental health classes. I got one certificate so far. Um, because I need to know, I can, tell you what I went through and,
yeah,
give you some of the tools that I grabbed hold of, but I really want to know, get more in depth, with it because the youth are our future and they have to be groomed. They have to be developed. And just like, we weren't given the tools, um, they have to be given the tools, show them how to use the tools. And, he and I was discussing this as well. Everybody learns differently, everybody's on different levels, so, it can get frustrating when you're trying to, like, man, didn't I tell you? Like, me, for instance, speaking with my employees, there's some that I can say, leave the block, at the door, get up off the block. This is a
hmm
professional environment. We're in corporate. And then there's some that I have to go in there and be, you know, corporate with,
right.
so yeah, I mean, it's a journey. As I was saying, we all are, going to be under construction for the rest of our lives. Nobody is perfect. And we're supposed to be open to learn
It's
every day.
it's beneficial when and that's the I guess the cool thing of being like there's not any therapist, not any good therapist that doesn't go through therapy. So
Oh yeah.
one of the best things about, I guess, being a counselor is it helps you counsel your own way. Now if you're doing it professionally, then it gets a little, tricky and annoying where it's like where he would even be like, damn, I gotta learn all these terms and
Right.
Right.
you know, I have those same
Hey
gripes,
man, I might
man.
be I might be open to learning all those terms, man. Don't throw that at me. Yeah. No, actually I
Man,
would.
that's
I
the
would be
big
like, man, what the fuck? I gotta learn all this shit.
Yeah.
dude.
It all sounds
Yeah,
the
man.
same.
I didn't. You see when I read the 11 cognitive distortions is like, and when I had to go through training for that shit, and I was like,
Like you said,
hey,
knowledge is hell.
yeah, it's hell. I was like, hey, is all of this bad? All of this can't be bad because I got damn near all of these, and I don't think they all bad. And it's like, kind of, sort of, not really, absolutely, yes, no. And then you gotta take that. You gotta take that answer. Where it's like, oh, okay, so it's not bad until it is. Gotcha,
Hmm.
gotcha. And and then you got to learn, is it a good thing to tell people of these things, or is it like, okay, I just got to be aware of it, but I can't like make somebody that I'm coaching and guiding aware of it yet, you know if at all, and then so now I just got to know this shit. Like, oh, that's labeling. Oh, that's a all or nothing form of thinking. I got to think about that, but I can't necessarily say it. You know
Right.
what I'm saying? Like, you know, and it's cool to know. It's good teachings, for you when you counseling people. That's why, like, when we do our check-ins, we try to do pause check-ins. How you feeling physically, intellectually, spiritually and emotionally. We start with there if you need, versus an open check-in, which he and Gizzo do with this show. This is would be considered an open check-in, you
Right.
know. And then, you have, like, because I work with students, you have an academic check-in, and then, you
Yeah, I
know,
remember you saying that when I first met you on the show, about those check-ins
yeah,
and
there's a lot.
those
There's a lot
that's
of different
awesome.
types of
Yeah,
check-ins. There's a
yeah,
lot of different type of check-ins. So for heating them, that would be um, I guess it could be an economic or it could be a music production check-in. Like, if you're checking in on that, like how these, because that's the thing too. Just like I got to do academic check-ins with the youth, because that's basically their work. That's like their work. I got to do those. I mean, I don't got to do, but like, he got to do those type of check-ins with himself
Yeah.
when it comes to what is frustrating you about making this beat, and what's going on. How
Or
do you
doing
feel
these
about this
shows.
beat? Yeah, like what is in your way, what is conflicting, all of that stuff. There's so many types of check-ins, you know, versus that's why I always commend, these gentlemen for doing these open check-ins.
Hmm.
Definitely.
yeah.
Appreciate it,
That's
bro.
just like you know, being wellness. Most people don't know that being well is just not a physical aspect. There's several dimensions, to being well: spiritually, mentally, physically, financially,
Hmm.
economically,
Yep.
socially, you know, all of these. And when one is, unbalanced, there's a negative impact. So, there's work. So, and there we go back to trusting the process. If you're trying to be well, you got to put in work.
What is that you always say, D Nick, about knowing math but executing?
In terms, but not eating the cost. Is that what you're talking about?
No, you were saying like, things are simple but they're complicated. Like and
Oh
you
yeah, no, yeah, like simple solutions like always require complicated executions. Like the stuff is simple, but the execution is mad complicated.
Right.
And if it's a complicated solution, like it's a super complex solution, usually that shit is simple to execute.
Right.
They never match.
Right.
They're like plaid and stripes.
Plaid and
Wow.
stripes never match. Says who? Says who? Nah. Man, I love this conversation. Like I was like, there was so much shit going wrong in the beginning of the show and everything. I was like, man, I was about to shut it off, but something said to keep going, and so here we are, and I love everything that's been said tonight. But I am going to end it because I am starving. I have not ate all day, and I got all this food upstairs, and it is calling me.
Yeah, get your grub, man.
Yeah, but before we go, you know what we got? We got the last words. D-Nick, we can start with you. Last thoughts.
Shoot people some grace when it comes to generational trauma. Like especially if you're confronting the past generation that are not that are what's a good word for are that would you would consider are the catalysts of your trauma, because if ignorance is bliss, knowledge is hell, and that's
Right.
for me. So they might not want that hell, so you got to shoot them some grace. And I don't recommend being ignorant and being woefully ignorant, but you just got to know. And once you know, you do better. um and peace and blessings, everybody. D-Nick signing out.
Yes, sir. LaShawn, last thoughts? LaShawn.
I can barely hear you. What did you
I
say?
said last thoughts.
Just trust the process. I mean, if you're wanting to, break away from those generational traumas, it's work. Like he just said, there's complicated solutions, and or I barely could hear, but you know, it's not, the journey's not always going to be
Mm.
easy. Yep.
All right. I'm going to
And
end
peace and
this.
blessing.
Yeah, I'm going to end this
Right.
by saying, yeah, what did you say earlier today? You said you got to get to, what did you say? You got to go through
Yeah.
to get to.
Yeah. Yeah.
And going through
Absolutely.
that,
To grow through it. Yep.
yeah, and to
Absolutely.
grow through it, to get to it, all of that
Yep. All of that.
is massive work. And just know that you're not alone, Just know that you're not alone. Understand it's a process. Understand it's a never-ending process. And you're going to be all right. Just keep pushing through the mud. Just keep pushing on. It's going to be all right. And with that being said, man, this has been the check-in, man. I love you guys. Bless you. I love you, my beautiful sister.
Bless.
Oh, I thought we weren't putting that out there, huh?
Oh, it's too late for all that. You threw it out there too, and that's why I even told you you said something about me and Tino, my brother.
I said he and my younger brother.
Just don't put my government out there.
Right.
You threw yours
I
out
love
there.
you more.
I love you more. Anyways, D-Nick, I love you, brother.
Blessings
My
to you
beautiful
both.
sister, I will call you tomorrow morning.
Yes, sir.
All right.
All right. Peace.
Bless.